Hello everybody! Today I would like to discuss with you a sample BMAT essay. BMAT stands for Biological Admissions Tests. And it's been just written by one of my new students. It's a diagnostic test. And the topic is, some people are sure that biological aging is genetically coded, while others think it's the environment to blame. What do you think? Explain your understanding of the statement by uncovering both the sides, then explain your view and come to a conclusion. So essentially, the student is required here to give a paraphrase of the initial statement in the first paragraph, дать перефразирование основной темы в первом параграфе, в первом абзаце, and to give his preliminary idea, дать предварительную основную мысль свою. And further on, in the next paragraphs, he is expected to disclose different aspects of this problem stated here. В следующих абзацах от него требуется раскрыть аспекты, противоречащие друг другу, которые упоминаются в теме. So I would like you to look at his initial writing and just form your own impression of it. Yeah. Let's briefly look at what he has written, but of course there are mistakes. Try not to memorize this version. There are quite many logical and grammar and lexical mistakes. So this is it. The statement about biological aging, it's a congenital part of a human. That sounds very funny. Or the reason for this is the environmental. In my humble opinion, there are two arguments true. That these two arguments are true and they are connected. Then goes the second part. Here it is. On the other hand, in spite of the fact that how complex an animal is, all of them have limited lifetime. Individuals living in good conditions have much longer and better life. Just while reading, try to evaluate whether it makes sense to you, whether it's easy for you to catch the idea. Yeah, especially in this sentence where he mentions the fact that we are complex organisms, and not only us humans but other biological species, right? But at the same time we have limited lifetime, and also he manages to fit in here the idea of good living conditions, prolonging and bettering our life. Yeah, it's very, very weird maybe, and it may lose you. And you in your turn may lose the point here, the thread line. Здесь очень легко запутаться, потому что в одно предложение ученик как бы вставил упоминание о ограниченной жизни нашей во времени, да, и о том, что мы комплексные системы, да, сложные системы, и о том, что если мы будем жить в хороших условиях, то это продлит нашу жизнь и улучшит. То есть, получается, он упомянул и первый аспект задания, genetically coded lifespan, and aging is genetically coded in genetically coded lifespan, right? И он также упомянул вторую часть проблемы, that there is the environment that is to blame in aging, что нужно винить только внешние факторы, среду в старении. And this is a mash of all of both the aspects, but I think that he should have started in the second paragraph to dwell on one of the aspects, not on both of them. А нужно было во втором все-таки абзаце уже начинать именно только об одном аспекте говорить, одну сторону обсудить. Да? He should have discussed only one aspect, not to confuse us, the readers. Okay? And then he gives an example of favorable living conditions, how they prolong our life. quality of air. The quality of air is introduced here, that it is essential for us, that people living in mountains have very long lives. Yeah, which is not necessarily so, but has some grain of truth indeed. Есть тут зерно правды, конечно, хотя можно и поспорить. Then he turns to the second part of this statement, that it's encoded in our genes. Здесь он вот обсуждает то, что это впрограммировано у нас в генах, что мы должны стареть. Let's read together. On the other hand, despite all human progress, we still cannot control aging. Эти вот запятые, these commas, they lose me personally. Меня они очень путают. It is genetically coded and affects people equally. Thus, loss of collagen or menopause are the most trivial health troubles. Упоминает такие генетически детерминированные проблемы, как потерю коллагена, связанную со старением, и менопаузу. Они, естественно, генетически кодируемы. Да? He mentioned this. It's good of him to have mentioned genetically coded conditions in our organism. Таким образом, он раскрыл обе стороны старения, и эндогенную, и экзогенную, да? И подходит к заключению. It's clear that aging is embedded in our genetic code, and we cannot fool our nature, but we can postpone this process a bit. But we should also remember that there should be an introductory or linking phrase here in the beginning of this last paragraph, because we should understand that it's like a conclusion, right? Something like to recap, or in conclusion, it's clear that, okay, and if we look back here, sorry, not here, it's already an instance of my corrections. If we look back here at the previous file here, he wrote about interconnection, the interconnection or interconnectivity of the two aspects of aging: intergenic, genetically encoded, and exogenic, environmental. And it would not be quite right to say endogenic, of course, because endogenic may not be genetically encoded as well, but I mean genetically encoded, right? Natural, which cannot be prevented so easily, right? That they are interconnected, and it's actually not mentioned here. И здесь это не упоминается, его мысль о связанности двух аспектов старения между собой, что каждый из них вносит лепту. Like each of these aspects plays a part in aging, right? He has forgotten to mention that, and this is a deviation from the excellent, from what is expected to him, right? Отклонение от того, что от него ожидают. Отклонение даже от того, что он сам себе задал, какую задачу. Раз он упомянул, if he has mentioned interconnectivity, связанность двух аспектов старения, let him dwell on it. Так пусть он об этом немножечко и поговорит в эссе, буквально в одном предложении хотя бы. At least in one sentence, all right? So this is how I've marked the essay. So, as I've already mentioned, not all aspects are well followed here in terms of logic, so we can see some discrepancies, right? As for language in general, I wrote to him that in the introduction he is to paraphrase all the words from the heading, all right? And he hasn't done that actually, yeah? If we look here, we'll see that he has mentioned the same words like biological aging, right? Biological aging, and environmental factors, right? He misused the word environmental. It's an adjective, он неправильно употребил слово environmental, это прилагательное, а после него нужно использовать существительное, которое нам будет определять. Вот я его вставила здесь. I inserted it here. Okay. And then he used the word in my humble opinion. Humble sounds a bit too artistic, too literary, okay? It should be a dry essay. Должно быть сухое эссе. Without such epithets like humble. По моему ничтожному мнению. Sounds funny. Okay, I crossed it off for him. And clearly, grammar is strange here. Yeah, it's completely out of place here, going on about. We'd rather say the statement discusses biological aging, right? Discusses, or the statement is on biological aging, or kind of refers to biological aging. Okay, let's write discusses here. But actually, even though we try to figure out what verb to use after the statement as a subject here, neither is known or discuss are very good here, because usually we use the word statement with a preposition of and another noun after it, without any verb in between them, like the statement about biological aging here, and that's all. And it should be inside a bigger sentence, like, for example, the given essay will address the statement on biological aging, or will address the statement that biological aging is a complex thing and consists of two aspects. Yeah, let's see. It's a controversial thing, yeah. So he should have actually written here that the given essay will discuss the statement that aging is perceived by people differently. Okay, this is the general paraphrasal of the initial statement and the best possible application of the word statement. All right, then he wrote a funny phrase, congenital part of a human, врожденная часть человека. Sounds pretty clumsy, and I think you will probably agree with me. Yeah. That's why you could now have a look here at my rephrasal that I offered him, the rephrasal of the two sides of aging postulated by two camps of people, by two sides of those, like proponents of genetics and opponents of genetics, and proponents of exogenic factors, like whether the organism's decline is brought about. Yeah, decline actually is a synonym for aging. Yeah, that's why it fits in quite well here, because we need to paraphrase, always paraphrase. Yeah, whether the organism's decline is brought about mainly by endogenic genomic mechanisms, or mostly comes from the outside, that means environment, right, under the influence of exogenic determinants, has always been a hot button topic for debate. Well, we could pretty well fit it under this additional sentence that I just provided, or it could go without it, just strictly by itself, right? Okay, let's move on to the second paragraph that he has written. Probably, yeah, I just also wanted to mention he ignores commas and it loses the readers. The readers expect him to signal where they should pause when reading here. That's all about fluency and ease of reading here. So guys, please stick commas after introductory phrases. It's a must. Вставляем запятые после вводных слов. Ну и не только. Not only. Okay, the second part. Here it is. He started disclosing one of the aspects of aging, but when reading this, I don't personally understand which part of it, genomic or exogenic, environmental. Because he here writes, in spite of the fact that how complex an animal is, all of them have a limited lifetime. Looks like he's going to explain how important genome is, that it prescribes us when to start aging, right? Because we all have a limited lifetime. But then he jumps to individuals living in a good condition have a much longer and better life. So we have to switch something inside our brains and refocus ourselves onto the aspects of environmental factors, and we still don't quite understand which of these two sides of aging he's going to uncover to discuss in the second paragraph, right? And only when reading the next sentence we understand that it's about environment, because he writes here, the quality of air is essential for us all. People living in mountains have, in the mountains actually, remember we always say that with the preposition in the mountains, have very long lives, okay? So I did a lot of corrections here, as you can see, right? On the one hand sounds a bit I don't know, sounds a bit like showing the contradictory nature, right? But I think he would like here to enumerate, enumerate here arguments, the first camp, the second camp, and the interconnectivity between them, right? So that's why I'd rather write here, as for the idea of exogenic factors dominance, right? And he writes here about a complexity of an animal life as a higher primate, right? But there are many complex organisms, right? Plants are extremely complex organisms. Their photosynthesis systems are very intricate, employing photons of the sun. We can't do that actually, although we have the same macromolecules. Yeah, but it's a whole biological topic. Yeah, but they are not employed in our organism the way they are employed in plants, right? And that's why I wrote to him. Baobabs can live over 1,000 years, being quite complex structures too. Yeah, dogs live roughly just 15 years, being higher primates, not less complex organisms than us humans, right? How can complexity determine an eternal lifetime? I think that this is a logical mistake, right? Это логическая ошибка, потому что сложность организма никак как-то особо не связана на поверку-то с тем, как долго организм живет, с его продолжительностью жизни, потому что баобабы, например, ну, то, что мне пришло в голову, они живут более 1000 лет, хотя тоже сложные организмы, растения. So it's too brave of him to postulate that complexity contributes to longevity, right? Should contribute to longevity. Not necessarily. Complexity can be associated with fragility. Да? Сложность строения системы также может обуславливать ее хрупкость. Так что это все неоднозначно. It's very ambiguous. Ну, здесь идут ошибки пунктуационные. There are also a lot of punctuation marks. I corrected it for him and I singled out the idea about good conditions. I made it a separate sentence for him, right? Good conditions sounds a bit primitive, yeah? BMAT, GMAT, international exams, essays should contain a lot of rare words, scientific terms, yeah? Not neutral, but higher flown styles should be used. So that's why I offer him the word favorable conditions, right? Different linkage words like however, and have could be just made more complex. It could be an infinitival structure, tend to have, имеют склонность иметь более долгие жизни, because indeed not all mountain livers have live long, not all of them are centenarians. Не все же, которые живут в горах, люди до 100 лет доживают. То есть имеется тенденция, so they tend to have a much longer and better life, okay? For example, comma, it's an introductory phrase, right? The quality of air is essential for us. Okay, ours may be humans or baobabs. I specify to humans, okay? Thus, people living in the mountains have very long lives. Yeah, here I decided to diversify his sentence structure. Здесь я решила сделать структуру предложения в его эссе немного более разнообразной, что требуется в международных экзаменах BMAT, GMAT. То есть структура должна быть не монотонной. Можно использовать всякие причастные обороты. For example, I used air quality being essential for human health. In the meaning, because air quality is essential for human health. Those living high in the mountains have a longer life expectancy. All right. So I use the participial constructions. Здесь причастный оборот использовала. Okay, and I think that it's not enough. And I added one more factors that prolong life. Like other prolonging life factors are a diet, physical activity, absence of stress, which is true for all species. Что, в принципе, применимо ко всем биологическим существам. Okay, in the third paragraph, he writes about genomic limits, геномные ограничения, codes of aging, коды старения. We can't help them. Пока мы с ними ничего не можем сделать. And let's see. Strange use of commas, really, guys. Commas sometimes fall like out of the blue. Здесь как бы запятые падают прямо как среди ясного дня. С ясного неба на голову. Despite all human progress, right? Despite all human progress, there should be a comma only after the word progress, да? Запятая только после прогресса, потому что это, в принципе, как бы вводная конструкция, да? Потому что мы знаем, что нужно вставлять запятые слева от подлежащего в главном предложении. Вот у нас главное предложение we still cannot control. Вот в нем подлежащее. Все, что слева от него, можно смело запятой выделять. So everything on the left of the subject in a sentence can be singled out, yeah, separated with a comma, right? Just remember that. With very, very few exceptions, like short forms like maybe, perhaps, that do not always require any commas after them. Okay. We cannot control aging. Я бы здесь все-таки написала не сколько контролировать, а сколько увеличить в разы жизнь. Вот это важно. This is important for us here to show that the topic is how to live not one life but 2 lives or 3 lives, like many-fold increase of our lifespan. That's what's important. That's why, and also it would widen the range of vocabulary that you will demonstrate. That's why I just offered another opinion here, another variant here. We still cannot live times longer than average. All right. Because we still, moreover, it is also a factual mistake, фактическая ошибка, because the humans have already learned to live longer than they used to. We have added an extra 30 years to our previously observed lifespans, right? It's a substantial amount of time actually. So we already can control aging, all right? But still, it would be better to talk about our ability to stop aging at all. Stopping aging would allow us to live really times longer, not just several decades longer, right? А нам нужно написать, что нам вообще нужно прекратить стареть, научиться. Или даже повернуть его вспять, это старение, да, чтобы в разы больше жить. This is a logical mistake. Это ошибка, относящаяся к логике. Here I can demonstrate you the way they mark this kind of essays, yeah. And in terms of quality of content, с точки зрения качества контента, мы видим, что то, что ученик написал о контроле возраста, а на самом деле мы уже научились контролировать возраст, да, нам нужно показать, чтобы остановить старение, нам здесь именно отход от темы наблюдается, да. Мы можем это даже трактовать как отход от темы. So we can even take it, or we can look upon it as an off-topic construction, yeah. Also, organization, coherence, последовательность, логичность, cohesion, yeah, cohesion, linking devices. So the fact that he has written here about not being able to control aging is actually coherence and an off-topic idea, right? And the fact that he misuses sometimes introductory phrases, like on the one hand, on the other hand, they are not the best choice here, right? Or does not use any of them where they could go, или вообще их не употребляет, где могли бы они быть. Where it was. Let me see, where was it? I inserted the word however for them there. Yeah, okay, can't see it anyway here. Здесь не вижу, но где-то ранее я вставила для него слово however. Yeah. This is use of linking devices. It's not up to the mark with him. Здесь не очень хорошо он демонстрирует владение этими linking devices, вставными конструкциями, да? Okay, I wanted to talk about this not being able to control aging. It's a bit logical. Let's go on. Давайте дальше посмотрим. Yeah, he writes, aging is genetically encoded and affects people's equally. And affects people equally. Sounds pretty strange, doesn't it? Firstly, I made this sentence. I turned the sentence from compound into complex, right? How can we do that? By adding since. Так как. Путем прибавления придаточного водительного союзом since. Since aging is genetically coded, it affects, so grammar mistake, no on, it affects people equally. All right, I again see here the object of discussion, I think, was initially chosen as a wider range of species. He wrote about an animal, right? I added a higher primate and organisms in general. So it is, and then suddenly he just narrows the object of his research or debate only to people, right? People actually is stylistically as well not right, because we talk about humans as organisms, as biological species here, and people are is a term for social studies rather than biology studies, okay? And yeah, and actually aging does not affect humans equally. But maybe I'm wrong here. Yeah, I think I'm wrong. Basically, we're all affected by aging and almost in the same way. That's why the point is clear here. Понятно, что здесь старение генетически закодировано и на всех действует одинаково, да? Не нужно только говорить people, потому что изначально было о животных, об организмах, как о живых организмах в целом. Не надо сужать объект дискуссии, да? Лучше сказать each organism eventually. В конце концов влияет на каждый организм. Отрицательный effect means negative influence. Таким образом, потеря коллагена, менопауза являются основными, самыми тривиальными проблемами со здоровьем. I actually inserted here increase in DNA mutations resulting in cancer. It's accumulation of DNA mutation. It's a wonderful example of how aging works, right? Okay, on a genetic level, our genome is constructed in such a way as to accumulate mutations. Sooner or later. All right. Health trouble sounds a bit unprofessional, right? We'd better say conditions. As a future doctor, he should get used to the word condition, physical condition. Okay. So it becomes clear, and I just added, irrespective of their living conditions. Независимо от их условий обитания, чтобы усилить мысль о том, что как бы хорошо мы не заботимся о своем здоровье, то, что у нас в геноме есть, какие-то гены, которые должны включиться обязательно и сработать, они сработают. So, it's irrespective, yeah? Loss of collagen, потеря коллагена, menopause, mutations, they're all inevitable now. Okay, in general, he has uncovered both the aspects of aging, indeed. But again, he forgot to write about how they are interconnected because it was his own idea, right? And I wrote about him that a better way would be to swap paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. Yes, надо было еще поменять местами параграф 2 и 3. То есть сначала все-таки рассказать о неизбежности старения, потому что оно прописано в геноме, а уже потом перейти на внешние факторы, что они все-таки немножко помогают нам улучшить качество и продолжительность жизни. То есть немножко побороться со старением, да? Почему это важно было сделать в таком порядке? Why was it important to discuss this this way? Because it would help him explain how the two aspects are interconnected. Потому что это помогло ему объяснить, как эти два фактора связаны между собой. То есть сначала написать, что это неизбежно, потом написать, что это с этим можно слегка побороться, улучшив уровень жизни и развивая все-таки биотехнологии. И потом уже написать, да, что с хорошим знанием того, как жить правильно и с воплощением, да, здорового стиля жизни, а также с развитием биотехнологий, у нас есть потенциал, да, хотя бы, по меньшей мере, удвоить жизнь, то есть жить там 120 лет, 130, 140, да, и вот. Но это только и доказывает как бы дуальность, то есть противоречивость, да, природы старения, что оно это два фактора здесь играют роль. Это можно было как бы тоже упомянуть в заключении или вот в конце третьего абзаца. So, after writing about how we could improve our life, living in a fresh air, eating good food, right, living a healthy lifestyle, we could just prolong our life. Yeah, he could have written, for example, after prolonging For example, this understanding of healthy living together with the use of modern bioengineering technologies has a promising potential, or maybe without promising here, it's tautology, has a potential, a great potential, to at least double our average lifespan, which testifies to the dual nature of aging. Alright? Таким образом, давайте я переведу, что я имела в виду. Понимание, вот это понимание здорового образа жизни вместе с использованием современных биотехнологических методов имеет огромный потенциал, по крайней мере, удвоить нашу среднюю продолжительность жизни, что только доказывает дуальную природу старения, что оно экзогенное и программировано в геноме, да? Вот. И, конечно же, такой вот вывод, такое дополнение напрашивается именно в конце 3-го параграфа, в котором будет вот это вот из 2-го, да? А 3-й пойдет во 2-й параграф. 3-й параграф. Okay, and in the introduction, he forgot to write an introductory phrase, a linking phrase. It's very bad. And I wrote it for him to recap. It's clear that aging is embedded in our genetic code and we cannot stop or reverse it, I wrote, okay? To fool our nature sounds a bit childish, right? And unprofessional. And it should be dry essay, yeah? Сухое эссе должно быть, поэтому лучше вот по факту говорить, остановить, потому что обмануть природу мы можем по-разному. Пол поменять, тоже обмануть природу. Okay, but we still can postpone this process a bit. Но мы все еще можем отложить этот процесс. И объяснить нужно, почему можно отложить. Since the speed of our decline is conditioned by how we live, or by the environment we live in. Таким образом, во вступлении мы посмотрим, что он сделал. Он показал правомочность обоих утверждений про старение и упомянул то, что они взаимосвязаны, мы можем его отложить, потому что скорость старения все-таки от экзогенных факторов зависит. Okay, in general, I'm going to mark this essay. I haven't marked it yet, but at first glance we can say that what suffers here? Of course, language suffers, vocabulary suffers, and logic suffers. But it's not a zero. It's not an X. They like to mark it as X if it's zero. Это не нулевое эссе, потому что мысль-то в принципе понятна, коммуникация с читателем есть, и страдает здесь, конечно же, fluency, то есть насколько легко читать, sentence structure, насколько разнообразна структура предложений, достаточно монотонна она у него здесь, use of vocabulary страдает, то есть лексика, вокабуляр ограниченный, непрофессиональный, use of grammar, соответственно, тоже страдает, но не сильно, так средне, so it's kind of closer to E, unfortunately, yeah. Below average, ниже среднего, да. Spelling and punctuation. Punctuation suffers, it's E. We could actually pretty well mark it like E here, E. Spelling and punctuation, E. Slips and errors, I really do not see a lot of slips or errors, like omission of words or repetition of words, or parts of words standing on their own as if he forgot to write them. So I wouldn't say there are many of them here. Let's say it is C because they never give A if there are so many E's in front of them, before them. And as for the content, что касается качества контента, content off topic, I would say it is something in the middle, because he mentioned complex organisms, that they should live longer or not shouldn't. That complexity kind of determines how long the organism lives. It is unprofessional and off topic, and in the introduction he mentioned, well, basically we can say that this essay is on topic. He just didn't paraphrase it and didn't use a lot of synonyms and didn't explain what it means, what the initial statement means. There was a mix of ideas, there was a chaos of ideas in the second paragraph, where the reader couldn't understand what he's talking about genetically programmed aging, that is genetically programmed, or about environmental factors causing aging. Only became clear later. That's why we could refer it to such mistake, which is called coherence. And it's no higher than 3. Some examiners can mark it as 2 because it impedes their understanding, impedes their reading. Communicative achievement, выразительность. Oh, that's pretty poor with him actually. I would give him here 2 as well. Maybe organization could be between 2 and 3. Let's make it 3, a bit better for him here. Okay. So overall, that may amount to kind of 275E. That would be the score, 275E. That would be kind of my perspective, but it's pretty subjective. Оценка всегда достаточно субъективна, поэтому используется мнение 2 экзаменаторов. Вот, и общий балл получается ниже среднего. Но у нас есть целый год впереди. After such essays, after training to write such essays, students usually do much better in other international exams and in ЕГЭ in English and in Olympiads. Thanks for your watching and staying with me for such a long time. Bye bye.